Welcome everybody to Crypto Rosetta. My name is Savage. Today we're going to be having a look at Phantom. Let's get into the charts and see what's going on. Before we jump into the lower degree counting, we're going to go over some of our higher time frame ideas. So this is our more bullish case, in which case what we're saying is that as long as we continue to hold this 1642, we could be looking for the potential to actually still see a C wave to the upside, in which case our 1-to-1 would actually be here towards this 0705, which would bring us back up past this previous high. I would obviously also be watching out for the potential interaction with this high if we do see price looking to move up in this way. Now, within our more bearish case, what we are saying is that we are potentially looking for a break of this low. And the way that we'd be looking at this is we'd be treating this move as a W, X, and a Y here for an A wave. This is our connector wave as a B, and then looking for the C wave to the downside. Now, even within this count, there is still potential here that this whole move could be a bigger flat correction, and we could still see a move back up here to this zone of this 3739 to this 3275, which would actually be looking to interact with this high again. So we're going to go over these two counts and what we would be looking for each of these to actually play out to the downside. Now, within the idea of this moving down in a corrective fashion, what we would be looking for here would be that this whole move here is actually A, B, and then we're looking for this as a C wave. Now, the internals of this last leg here are a bit choppy, and it's unclear as to whether this is actually completed, whether this has still got a little bit more extension to the downside here. Now, within this idea of this being an A, B, and a C, we have already come down to this 1.382, which is sitting here at this 1908. Now, because of this reason, I'm looking out for the potential of a reversal, but we don't have very good structure at the moment to the upside. So what we need to be careful, however, is that if this is still looking to extend out, we could be looking to push down in a bigger way. So we're going to come in here and have a look at the more bearish case. Now, within this idea, what we'd be saying for as long as we hold below this 2261, we could be looking for this move to actually push down in an additional fifth wave. Now, the fifth wave target is most commonly the 1695 to this 1565. The problem is that we have here is that if this move is actually looking to break down in a five-wave structure, we only have a three-wave move down. Now, it is possible that this could become some kind of a diagonal pattern here, where we see a contracting wedge shape form to the downside and push us down into this lower target box area. Alternatively, the other way we'd have to look at it is that this could be a corrective move, and we could still need to look to push up before we start to get more clarity within the structure. The problem is that if we do push up, this idea of this being 1, 2, 3 actually then starts to become less likely, because this fourth wave would have gotten too large. Now, if we do look at this push to the downside here, what I would be saying is that we need to see this move starting to break down if this is the case. And what we'd have to say is that, like I said, either this is ABC and this is wave 1, we have this as a corrective move, and we're going to see another three-wave move and form this diagonal to the downside. Or alternatively, we have 1, 2, 1, 2 here, and we're looking for this wave 3. Now, the most common target area for this wave 3 would be this 1.618, and that would be based off of where we currently are, until we actually break back above the 786 level of this 2023. We need to be very careful, because this more bearish scenario is looking more likely, in my opinion. But we'll have to see exactly how the structure actually develops here, because we're going to go over a bullish count in a second, which could look to actually come back up and hit these invalidations, which would then actually invalidate this idea, and we'd be looking at something else playing out here. So within this idea, like I said, this could be 1, 2. We have another 1, 2 here, and what we'd be looking for would be this 1.618 at this 1614. We wouldn't want to move back above this 2023, and then we'd be looking for, like I said, a five-wave pattern down here in this wave 3, 4, and 5, which could mean that this white wave 3 actually looks to push down more towards this 2.618 level of this 1562, which would then align with actually seeing this bigger sell-off here into our lower target box area here between this 1801, which we've already touched into, and then this lower level of this 1459. Now, within this level, what we do have is there is still a monthly naked point of control towards the bottom end of this, sitting here at this 1458. As well as that, we do have this weekly naked point of control sitting here towards the 17 cent region. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on these levels to see if we get a reaction off of those zones. Coming back out here, though, we're going to be discussing another way that this could look to play out to the downside in the C wave. Now, if we're looking at this as a potential C wave here, we could also see something like this playing out, because of the fact that if we take this point over here and we look at this, this could just be a three-wave move to the downside, in which case we'd be looking for this potentially as a wave 2. Now, the problem that we have is, once again, we just have a three-wave structure down here. So if this is actually going to become a diagonal pattern, it would be more likely that actually what we have is that this is an A, this is a B, and we're going to see a push to the upside one more time in the C wave, in which case we could potentially look to target out this 382 to this 50% level in another move to the upside here in a 5-wave structure. So going to be keeping an eye out for that idea. If we're looking at this potential of seeing this push to the upside, if we treat this as A, B, and we're looking for the C wave, now this would be valid for as long as we hold 1784. What we could potentially see here is price could start to form a bigger impulse structure here, looking for this 2183, which would be just below this 0.382 of this 2221. So I would be watching out for those levels if we do continue to see this low hold here and we do start to see price looking to rally to the upside. If however we start to break down, like I said, we need to be careful of that more bearish scenario where we could have this develop as a 5-wave move down or another 3-wave move to the downside. We look to sweep these two lows. And if we do get a 3-wave move down, we'd be expecting another 3-wave move up and another 3-wave move to the downside, looking to push us down past those lower zones. Now, the other way we discuss this is that this whole move here could still be in a bigger corrective pattern, which could also mean that this is a flat correction. If we're looking at something as a flat, what we'd be looking at is effectively this is a 3-wave move up here as an A, a 3-wave move to the downside as a B wave, and then looking for this potential of having a 5-wave move to the upside. Now, some target areas that we'd be looking out for here would be this 1-to-1 level, which is sitting here at this 2660. And what we'd also be looking out for here is that if this was going to become an expanding flat, we'd be looking for this 1618, because this is the only target that would actually look to push us back above this A wave area. We could potentially still look to target this 1382 to this 1236, so we'd have to monitor the structure if we do continue to hold this level here and we start to see some impulsive price action to the upside. But we don't have enough confirmation of this, and this move currently is looking very corrective, so we need to just be on the lookout that there could be something else going on here where this potentially becomes 1-2 and then we start to see that bigger break to the downside. Within this idea of a breakout where we're saying that this could potentially be a flat, there's some areas of interest that we need to keep an eye on. So this low here of this 1780 is one that we need to be aware of, and if we lose this low, the probability then becomes that this move is something else. Now the problem is, like I said, we'd have to then take this as our A wave and we'd have to treat this whole move as a bigger corrective structure here, where we'd have to say this would be a bigger WXY, and then what we'd be saying is that this move here is effectively looking more like a diagonal pattern than anything else, and then we'd be looking for this as a wave too. So if we're looking at this possibility of breaking out from this point, we need to see a much bigger move. So there's two ways we can look at it. We can look at it in the way that I just said as a diagonal pattern, either that, or we'd have to say that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is W, X, and Y, and then we're looking to actually rally to the upside. Now, the way that I'd be looking at this move is that if we are looking to rally to the upside here, we need to maintain this lower level here of this red line, this 1878. If we continue to hold this line, which would be this low over here, what we could potentially see is that we could see price actually come back down into this 1921 to this 786 region, and then we'd be looking for that potential to rally to the upside from that area. If, however, we see price reject here and we lose this low, this would then indicate that within this structure here, we have something else going on, because if we have this as a potential 5-wave move up, this could also then be a C wave, and then we're looking for that continuation down, which would look then to potentially invalidate this 1829 line here, which would invalidate this idea of the break to the upside. But as long as we hold 1878, I'm going to be looking for the possibility here that we could be setting up for a bit more of a rally. Now within this idea, what we'd be saying here is that this is wave 1, 2, and we're looking for 2095 as a potential target. Alternatively here, if this is going to just become a corrective move where we have this as A, B, and C, this 1-to-1 is actually sitting here at this 20 cent region, which would be quite an interesting level because it would be a back test of the support zone that we lost previously. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on that level if we do see price looking to push up there. Now, if we do look to actually see this rejection to the downside here, one more time, where potentially this becomes A, B, and C, this 1921 to the 786 is going to become our next important support zone, where we look for this continuation down, and then we look for this potential of either a C wave up or this third wave. If we do hit this 2063 level, what we'd then be looking for would effectively be the potential of having a 5-wave move like this, where we look to push up towards this white 1.618 level, which would be here at this 2095. If we do move up towards that zone, then the next thing we'd be looking for would be evidence of this 4th wave, and then looking for this 5th wave, which could look to push us up towards this 2151 to this 2116 level. So that's the main way that I'm looking at this move to the upside currently. If we want to argue this slightly different, we could also argue, like I said, and say that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, in which case this would then become our wave 2 here. And what we'd then be looking for is effectively having a bigger move to the upside, either in a C wave, which would be here towards this 2037, or this 2146 would be our next impulsive area, where then what we'd be saying is that this is 1, 2, this all becomes 3, we'd look for a 4th wave, and then we'd have that 5th wave to the upside. So until we actually see confirmation and this low hold at this 1871, we need to just be careful of that more bearish option here, where we could still be looking for that continuation down. The problem is here that even if we do get this as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to the upside as we have it marked out here, what we could still then see is that this is just a bigger A, B, and a C pattern, and then we could still look to break down. So the key level here is going to be this low at the moment. If we do see an impulsive structure to the upside like this, we need to watch that retracement. 3 waves down could mean that we could see continuation up. A 5-wave structure to the downside could be the first indication that we're going to see this continue to extend to the downside, where we get 3 waves up, and then we continue to break down and take these lows out, getting rid of that bullish count that we've got here. And that would then mean that obviously, you know, we are looking for those lower targets to come, and that would actually then make it more likely that within this count we are looking at either this diagonal pattern, or alternatively this idea of seeing this extension to the downside in this blue 5th wave, where this is 1, 2, 1, 2, and then we're looking for this 3rd wave to the downside. Having a look at the daily CPR lines here, what we can see is that we are currently above our central lines, which is this 1927 to this 1912. If this area continues to hold, what we could then see is price could look for a reversal to the upside, in which case what we'd be looking for potential targets would be this 1969, 2031, 2083, and this 2144 as potential targets for today. If, however, we see price looking to break down and we lose this level, I will be looking out for a potential reaction at this 1857. Other targets would be 1809, 1743, and this 1696 as potential downside targets for today. Now, we do have some new weekly CPR lines here, and what we can see is that we've actually printed a lower CPR line, which is giving us an initial bearish bias. However, these are very tightly spread, so these are indicating that we're going to see some volatility. If we do see price looking to come back down here, 1905 is going to be a zone I'm watching for potential support, which would align with the idea of this move looking to extend to the upside in a 5-wave structure. If we do see something like this, where we see retracement back into these lows, and then we look to continue to the upside, targets for this week would be 1986, 2070, and this 2145. Targets to the downside, should we start to lose these central lines, would be 1824, 1746, and this 1665 as potential downside targets. Now, this would align with the idea of seeing an additional push to the downside here, so we're going to have to watch these levels to see how we react. Now, moving over here to the monthly CPR lines, what we can see is that we are still currently underneath these central lines. If we do move back up here, 2050, 2095, and this 2143 could be potential resistance directly above us, so we need to just be careful that even if we do see a bigger 5-wave structure, for instance, up into these levels, this could still align with seeing that additional push to the downside. Now, if we do look to just move away from this zone and just look to continue down, I will be looking out for a reaction at the 1688. Other targets to the downside would be this 1370, and then we have this one all the way down here at this 0956. If, however, throughout the rest of this month we manage to flip these into support, what we could then see is a test of this 2414, 2825, and this 3143 as potential upside targets for this month. Now, if we do start to see price looking to push up into these zones, this could just be a bigger ABC pattern, and then we look for that continuation down. However, if we start to follow that breakout count here, what we would be looking for would be this area as our 1.618 at this 24.36 based off of this low here and based off of holding this low of the 1780, which would align with actually seeing a bigger 5-wave structure up here. We would be looking for something like this, looking to push us up into these zones. Now, if we are looking to break out of this in a bigger way, it is also possible we could form this as 1, 2, and we form 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, come back down in another wave 2, and we'd have this as 1, 2, 1, 2, and then we'd look for that continuation up. So this is some of the things that I'm going to be watching as long as we hold the 1780 level. If, however, we start to break down, we've obviously got that bearish count that we discussed earlier and those bearish targets from the CPRs. Okay, so I'm going to leave the video there. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please smash the like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, turn on those bell notifications so you never miss a video. Leave us some feedback down below, and also in the description you'll find a link to the Discord. Come check it out, it's free to join. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.